Hi guys, welcome to my new LP, and it's a let's play of Fire Emblem 6, The Binding Blade, but I'm doing a special challenge, and I'm calling it the Bad Units Run. So I'm taking an opportunity to just use the very worst units in the entire game. So like Barth, Wolt, and I originally went through so it was one of the GBA games I decided to do this. I didn't do it on FE7 because I didn't have a save and really couldn't be bothered to play through Linsdale. And for Sacred Stones, I just didn't have a hard mode save, which is kind of necessary because that game's quite easy, and there's no bad unit. So I'm doing this on normal mode mainly because I didn't have a hard mode save, and there's two things that could make or break this run: RNG and level ups. Actually, wait, okay, just level ups. So for the first chapter, I'm just using Barth, Wolt, and Raigh. I'm classing those as bad units. So I'm just parking Marcus right up at the north. I'll turn animations off on the second episode. I'm just doing this for chapter 1, and I'm putting Wolt behind him because he will die to 1 or 2 shots. And the problem, I just want to go over and talk about the units. Raigh he's not necessarily that bad of a unit, but he's one of the worst lords. I'd say Leaf is the worst, mainly because he gets his promotion right before the final chapter, which means he'll often max, and he'll get outclassed by every other unit until he gets his promotion. But he kind of trivialized the final level because you can basically one-man it, because his promotion and the Binding Blade is just so OP. Wolt is he's just horrible. Like, his growth rates, he could be okay if you get really lucky for your first few promotions, but he's just generally bad. He doesn't have the speed to double most units apart from some soldiers, but there's no soldiers in this chapter, I don't think, apart from one. He hardly deals any damage. He does like 8 damage, which is equal to the enemy archers, and he doesn't have much of any other stats. Barth is mind-numbingly painful to use, as you just saw. He has a really low skill, and he has a really low hit rate on anything, which is just horrible. You see how Wolt, he's nearly equal to the archers. As I said, Barth has a horrifyingly low skill, which means he doesn't hit a lot, and he's only got a 30% attack growth and speed growth, which means he's not going to deal much damage, and even when he does hit, like, the damage he deals isn't that good. When he promotes into a general, he gets a nice boost of, I know he gets free attack and some skill. For some reason he has 50% on his speed growth. He's going to be one of the better units, just because I'm going to have to use all the armor knights because they're all trash in this game. And so maybe he's good as a boss killer, just give him a powerful weapon and just use a triangle attack. But that way I have to use Gwyndolyn, or Wendy as it's in some translations, which I really don't want to do. So I may use Marcus throughout these chapters, just because he's one of the poorer pre-promotes, and when I do use him, I'm going to use him sparsely. I'll leave a link in, list in the description of the units I'm classing as bad. Please don't get triggered, that's just the units I'm using. I try to make a list of bad units, but also enough so I could actually complete this. So I'm just parking here, so I can use Raigh and Barth to take out the first few sort of enemies. This arguably probably the hardest part of the chapter. The rest is quite easy. So I've got Marcus holding Wolt so he doesn't die, and just hopefully getting hits on Barth, which is when an enemy fighter has a higher hit rate than you, that's when you know something's up. Yeah, as I said, he's probably going to be more useful. And I'm going to have to use one healer. I've decided that's going to be Ellen, because she's the worst out of all of the healers. Soul is just generally better. It's the same class, and he just is better in every regard, and the rest of mounts. So Belladonna, Cecilia even. So he's Ellen's just like probably the worst of the healers, and I needed to use one. I meant hit release here, not trade. But I'm trying to keep my Cavaliers close to the action because their high aid will let me capture rescue a lot of my units. So I'm just wiping out this area and going to that village because it has 5,000 gold. I've done this run a few times. There's nothing in the houses, but this chapter actually poses more of a challenge in chapter 2, I believe, because of how it's designed. But it's mainly those first bits. If you can survive those bits, if you can survive the first onslaught of enemies, you've probably got this chapter in the bag. The only problem with this is I use a lot of vulneraries in this, because I have no healer, and I can only use the bad units, which is quite costly, probably in the long run. But hopefully it should be fine. I'm gonna skip all the dialogue, because I'll leave that, because I believe people have seen it, and there's other LPs that have the dialogue shown and just do it better, with voice acting. And I'm not here to show off the game. I'm here to see if I can beat it using the worst units in the game. I may do more of these if this goes down well. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just using Barth as bait to bait down these two bandits. If I do this, I can deal enough damage and then just finish them off with Raigh and Wolt. And yeah, the hit rate in this game is a bit off. I know that's not a good example of it, but I've been hit by 40 hit rate attacks, and double roll just makes that even worse. So you can just see how bad Wolt is. He's only dealing 8 damage, and in a game where you kind of want to one-hit KO or at least nearly get them down, that's just not enough. And as you can see, the problem with Barth, you just can't rely on him at all. He's missing every attack he throws, which is just disappointing. That at least Raigh has a 100 hit rate, which is good. And these bandits don't have much of a hit rate, but they do hit. So at least I've got one of the fighters down, not bandits even. So one of the fighters down. You just have to wait and get this down. So the biggest problem is I can't do this ranked. It's going to absolutely destroy my turn count. That's just rip my turn count. Maybe when I get a few chapters in, I might display it. It's probably just going to have 1 star. It's just going to be absolutely horrible. We get a level up on Barth. I've got mostly good level ups in this. That was quite a good one. I think he got one in skill, which slightly improves his hit rate. And I'm just spreading out these dudes, because you want to mostly, just checking his stats, you want to mostly just, because I said I would use Marcus, and I may use Marcus and that, but I want to use the bad units, because until I have until I can choose which units, pre-battle selection, I'm stuck with these. So I kind of want to give it the most levels to the really bad ones, and that mainly consist of Raigh and probably Barth, because Wolt I'm just planning to go, because he has nothing. I'm pretty sure throughout this, because this is pre-recorded, he has about he gets about 1 stat in HP when he levels up, and his growths aren't terrible per se. It's just he doesn't get what he needs. What he needs is speed and attack, and those are just lackluster. So we got a level up on Raigh. I believe I get nothing. Oh, got strength and skill. Yeah, for Raigh, what I really want is speed and strength, so I can deal more damage and double more often. For Barth, it's mainly skill and possibly speed. I want speed on everyone, because there gets to a point where you're getting doubled by pretty much everything, which is essentially you're taking 2 times the damage, which is just like horrible and is probably going to be the biggest deciding factor in if I can beat chapters in this. And probably ranged weapons is another big deciding chapter, because they're going to be extremely useful, because most of my ranged units, I'm probably going to only end up having 1 archer, actually 1 magic user, and both the 2 archers that I can end up using, Dorothy and Wolt, are just horrible. I know this is a bad unit run, but they're like the worst of the worst. So this is completely off topic, but if you look at the Armor Knights, they walk together and they take their breastplate off, which I've always found weird. I know it's nothing to do with it, but I just always found that weird. I mean, it works for the animation, but like I didn't know it could detach. But so I'm just moving balls forward to bait some of those, and I can take out that stray bandit with Raigh. My problem with Raigh is not just a level up. The rapier, it's meant to be a really powerful weapon, but it has 5 might, which is equal to an iron sword, and like there's no point saving it, because while it is effective against armor and cavalry, it's still not going to deal much damage. It's probably just better to use an armor slayer, which you get an armor slayer in chapter 2. I don't know when you get like a rider's bane or anything. So I'm just checking out these units and deciding the best course of action. One of the annoying thing is I didn't know if he could do ranged, which he can't, but it doesn't really show you in this game. So I'm just going to attack this bandit, this archer even, because he's like the one I want to take out. I can easily deal with the fighters. His added range is frustrating, and maybe take out this fighter, because the fighter by Barth will probably end up going for him. So Wolt takes him out, and no, not a level up. So, and I'm just gonna plop Raigh right next to Wolt and just wait out the stun. So one of the hardest things in this chapter is probably going to be boss killing. Like, it's harder than it is in FE7, because the thrown bonuses, it gives more avoid, heal, and power, I think. I'm not sure. I know it gives more avoid. And since I have bad units, like the high defense bosses, if I don't have any effective weapons, they could be really painful. I don't think there's many moving bosses, if not any, so I'm just going to get Barth to take down this archer. So I'm just getting rid of all the enemies so I can defeat this boss. He wields a steel axe, but steel axe are extremely heavy, so most units can double him, except Wolt, because Wolt sucks. And it is not very accurate, but it does deal a lot of damage, so you want to be careful. So we've got to level up on Wolt. See, HP, which means nothing. Like, I mean, a point in HP is better than nothing, but I don't want HP, I want speed and I would say skill, but I just want speed and power. So I can hit more, and when I do hit, it deals more damage. So, I just end up sniping this boss. It deals 3 damage and he heals 2. So it's not going to, do much, but at least it gives Wolt XP, and it's better than nothing. So I'm just going to heal and put Raigh in front, but first I'm going to check how much damage he does, which he has an attack of 20, which is a lot. Like Raigh has 11, and Raigh can take at least 1 attack. So I'm just going to, so if you see Barth, it's 9 damage to an Armor Knight. So I go and rescue this dude, because if he gets hit again, which is a 58% chance, he's down. So I'm just going to put Raigh in front of him, and that way I can, and use a vulnerary, so that way when he attacks I can double and deal a fair amount of damage, which, to be fair, is the only way I'm going to end up beating this boss, because, gosh, I'm not doing anything with Wolt, and I've got a 31% hit rate with Borce's javelin, which with double roll is even worse. It's like 15, and that's just horrifyingly low. Like, you can't rely on that, and then it doesn't deal too much damage. Like, let's check. 6 damage, 31 hit rate. So, yeah, he's gonna miss, but luckily weapon durability isn't used when you miss, which is the only reason I probably wouldn't be doing this otherwise. So he attacks 14 damage, but really low hit rate. And like, when I was playing through, I was honestly surprised I could actually deal this much damage with Raigh, because I was like pondering, like, should I use Marcus to take him out, because I can't take him out any other way. But sure, Raigh can do it, so I just need to wait and get him to attack Raigh. I don't want to attack, because if I attack and he ends up hitting both times, I'll have to redo the chapter. It's probably not going to happen, and it's not that long of a chapter, but I'd rather not, as I've got like a few good level ups. I've got like 1 or 2. That wasn't really that good. Like, luck, Raigh doesn't need, and HP, you'd probably get HP anyway. So he's down to 1, so I can either, and I get really lucky, I just toss the javelin, see if I can end it this turn, and hit it with that really low crit rate. So yeah, that's chapter 1 down. And got a level up on Borce. What do we get? HP and luck. I prefer skill, but